Look closely at this point of contact. You finally achieved the view. You saw the architecture of your own soul in episode 4. You attained that stillness. But now, as you try to live from that space, your body feels like it is failing you. It feels heavy, erratic, and exhausted. Why? Because you are trying to force a high-frequency consciousness through a biological system that is still screaming under the weight of old entropic habits. You didn't just reach a new state of mind. You triggered a physical war between who you were and who you are becoming. This friction is not failure. It is the sound of your biological shell trying to accommodate a new infinite reality.
This conflict is the defining crisis of your metamorphosis, the collision between the high-order luminous geometry you have built and the raw biological reality of your nervous system. Notice how the pristine golden structure on the right is not merely floating in space. It is desperately attempting to graft itself onto the jagged, plasma-like turbulence of your previous self. This is not a seamless integration. It is a violent recalibration. Your biological system, calibrated for survival, panic, and reactivity, perceives this new ordered frequency as a foreign invader. It is resisting. The tension you feel in your muscles, the sudden fatigue, and the brain fog that descends when you try to remain neutral are not signs that you are losing your path. They are the objective symptoms of this binding process. You are attempting to pull a high-frequency, quantum-level blueprint down into a low-frequency, caterpillar-level hardware. The gears in the center of G represent the sheer physical work required to bridge this gap. Every time you consciously choose neutrality over a panic-induced reaction, you are forcing the raw electrical signals of your nervous system to pass through these filters. You are essentially rewiring your body in real time. This binding is inherently volatile because the raw system has its own survival agenda. Your reptilian brain interprets your quest for sovereign neutrality as a threat to your safety. It wants the chaos, the drama, and the reactive feedback loops because that is the known environment where it has learned to survive. When you starve that system of its chaotic fuel, it responds with physical exhaustion and emotional restlessness. You feel like you are failing because the system is demanding that you return to the old state of entanglement. It is the ego's final desperate attempt to reject the installation of your sovereign quantum soul. This binding is the bridge between the conceptual and the physical. Until this connection is solidified, you will continue to feel this friction. You are the only person in the world who can hold the space for this biological upgrade to complete. Does it provide clarity to realize that your physical exhaustion is not a sign of burnout, but a sign that the quantum soul architecture is actually starting to take hold in your physical body?
The exhaustion you are experiencing, that heavy, deep-seated fatigue that refuses to lift even after 10 hours of sleep, is not biological. It is transformation fatigue. When your field is recalibrating beneath the surface, you are not merely recovering from physical exertion, you are witnessing the energetic cost of a fundamental system upgrade. You are attempting to run a high-frequency operating system on biological hardware that is still mapped to a survival-based entropic frequency. The fatigue you feel is the precise cost of that dissonance. It is the power draw of the gears you saw as they work to filter the raw, chaotic noise of your past into the coherent light of your new reality. Sleep, in the traditional sense, is a restoration of your physical form, but it cannot address the demands of an evolving soul. Your physical body is currently serving as a laboratory for this recalibration. While you sleep, your system is not just resting, it is attempting to lock the new, higher-order pathways into place, overriding the entrenched neural circuits that once kept you locked in the marketplace of chaos. This process is energy intensive. It is as if you are trying to rewire your house while the lights are still on, the appliances are running, and the foundation is shifting. The fatigue is the warning light on your control panel, indicating that your resources are being diverted from maintenance to creation. The mistake most participants make at this stage is trying to fix the fatigue with more rest, or worse, with stimulants to regain the old level of reactivity. This only exacerbates the problem, forcing the system to operate at a lower frequency to compensate. Instead, you must understand that this exhaustion is a structural necessity. Your nervous system is undergoing a process of liquefaction. The old, rigid structure of the caterpillar self is dissolving into a state of potentiality, which is why you feel so directionless and drained. The energy required to maintain the integrity field while simultaneously shedding the old self is immense. You are quite literally vibrating at a higher pitch than your body was designed to sustain. To navigate this, you must treat your fatigue as a high-order signal, not a low-order symptom. Stop trying to fight the tiredness and start respecting the process. When the exhaustion hits, acknowledge it as the sound of the coherence processor working at maximum capacity. Give yourself permission to idle. You are not being lazy. You are being the architect who recognizes that the foundation needs time to set. Do not force productivity during these lulls. Use them to refine your internal silence. The more you resist the need to slow down, the more friction you create, and the longer the fatigue will persist. You are moving through a transformation that few have the courage to endure. You are dismantling your own architecture from the inside out and rebuilding it to resonate with a higher purpose. The fatigue is simply the tax you pay for entering this new dimension of existence. It will subside only when the recalibration is complete and your body has learned to naturally inhabit the frequency of the quantum soul. How does viewing your exhaustion as a sign of architectural growth rather than a sign of physical breakdown shift your approach to your daily recovery?
To understand why your body is struggling to keep pace with your evolving consciousness, you must look at the vagus nerve, the biological bridge between your high-frequency quantum soul architecture and your low-frequency physical vessel. In the context of your transformation, the vagus nerve is not just a bundle of fibers, it is the physical manifestation of your coherence processor. When you're in a state of high-entropy reactive panic, your vagus nerve is effectively muted or dormant, allowing the environmental noise of the marketplace to hijack your nervous system. The exhaustion you feel is, in part, the sensation of this nerve system attempting to come online and handle a load of data it was never trained to process. The vagus nerve acts as the primary sensory anchor for your integrity field. Its role is to constantly monitor the environment for threats. When it detects the volatility of others, it usually initiates a fight or flight response, forcing you back into the caterpillar frequency. However, as you master the observer perspective, you are essentially recoding the vagus nerve to stop responding to these signals as threats. You are training it to recognize chaos as mere data, allowing it to maintain a state of vagal tone that is anchored in stability rather than reactivity. This is the physical anchor for your physics of untouchability. It is the biological circuit that allows you to remain calm while the room around you descends into turbulence. When you feel that deep, heavy fatigue, your vagus nerve is undergoing a process of vagal recalibration. It is attempting to expand its capacity to hold higher frequency states without triggering a stress response. This is why simple rest fails. You are not trying to recover from a task, you are trying to upgrade the hardware that manages your entire internal reality. By consciously practicing the pivot, the mental shift into the observer seat, you are actively feeding the vagus nerve with the signal that you are safe, that the environment is controlled, and that coherence is the new baseline. This is the deliberate act of waking up your nervous system to its role as the guardian of your sovereign field. This awakening is the final stage of your physical integration. As the vagus nerve stabilizes, you will find that the cliffhanger of interacting with volatile others becomes much easier to manage. Instead of feeling the physical contraction of stress, you will feel the vagus nerve maintain a steady, expansive tone, keeping your integrity field intact regardless of external pressures. You are turning your own biology into a high-order filtration system, one that naturally rejects entropy and sustains the luminous symmetrical geometry of your true self. As you look toward the next episode, realize that your body is not the enemy of your transformation. It is the very instrument that will allow you to walk through the world as an untouchable force of order. The feeling of being raw and exposed, that unsettling, skinless sensation where every interaction feels like a physical invasion, is not a sign of emotional fragility. It is the sensory manifestation of data saturation. As your integrity field begins to crystallize, your nervous system is no longer operating on the restricted, narrow-band perception of the caterpillar. You are beginning to perceive the subtext, the energetic intentions, and the chaotic vibrations of the marketplace that you previously ignored to survive. You are not feeling too much. You are processing a bandwidth of reality that your old operating system was never calibrated to handle. Think of your nervous system as a camera lens that has suddenly been adjusted to focus on a far wider field of view. The raw feeling is the result of the hardware straining to process this influx of high-definition data without the proper filtration software. In your previous state, you were effectively blind to the entropic noise of the environment. You lived in a filtered, comfortable illusion. Now the filters are off. You are experiencing the raw, unfiltered truth of human interaction, and your system is alerting you to this change through physical discomfort. The exposure is simply the price of admission to a higher level of awareness. Instead of interpreting this vulnerability as a danger, reframe it as a calibration period. When you feel exposed, recognize that your quantum soul is effectively mapping a new territory. You are currently in a state of high permeability, which is necessary for the final phase of integration. To mitigate the intensity of this saturation, use your observer seat to compartmentalize the data. When you feel overwhelmed, do not suppress the sensation. Simply label it as high bandwidth processing. This acts as a mental firewall, preventing the raw data from overwhelming your emotional core and allowing you to observe the environment objectively. This saturation is the final precursor to the physics of untouchability. Once your system adapts to this increased throughput, once the vagus nerve and the neural pathways fully solidify, the raw feeling will subside. You will stop feeling exposed because you will have mastered the art of selective permeability. You will be able to receive all the data, observe it, process it, and yet remain completely untouched by the underlying chaos. You are currently in the crucible of your own evolution, and the rawness is merely the sensation of your old limitations being stripped away to make room for a wider, more sovereign reality. As you conclude this episode, hold fast to the realization that your discomfort is a byproduct of your expansion. You are becoming a more refined instrument of perception. The marketplace may remain chaotic, but your ability to parse that chaos is reaching a level of precision that few possess. How does viewing your current vulnerability as a data processing upgrade help you maintain your balance in the face of the next wave of sensory input?
The physical aches and energetic friction you are currently experiencing are the final tangible remnants of the chaos you dissolved in Episode 3. When you move through the process of anchoring, stabilizing your new high-frequency identity, your physical body acts as a storage facility for the memory of your past entropic states. You are not experiencing new damage, you're experiencing the somatic discharge of stored data. As you lock in the integrity field, your body is finally being given permission to release the tension it held for years. Think of these aches as the detox symptoms of your nervous system. They are the physical debris of your caterpillar self being flushed out of your biological architecture.
This friction is particularly intense during anchoring because your body is trying to reconcile two opposing realities: the memory of old survival-based stress patterns and the presence of your new sovereign coherence. The aches are effectively the sound of these two frequencies colliding at the cellular level. When you feel a sharp pain or an unexplained tightness, do not interpret it as a health crisis. Interpret it as energetic friction, a temporary localized resistance caused by the old patterns attempting to cling to your biology, even as your consciousness moves into a higher state. You are witnessing the breakdown of your internal structure so that it can be reknitted according to the blueprint of your quantum soul. To manage this, you must treat your body as a patient during a major surgery. Use somatic observation to navigate the pain. Instead of resisting the ache with frustration, focus your attention on the exact center of the discomfort. In the observer's seat, ask yourself, is this pain a current threat, or is it the residual energy of a past stress? You will find that by simply witnessing the sensation without attaching a story of suffering to it, you speed up the release process. You are allowing the energy to complete its cycle rather than trapping it through reactive resistance. You are providing a safe, neutral space for your body to drop the baggage it no longer needs to carry. Understand that this somatic release is the final step in the physics of untouchability. A vessel that is cluttered with the stored trauma of the past cannot hold the pure, high-frequency signal of the sovereign self. These aches are the proof that you are being emptied so that you can be filled with something far more potent. Do not fear the discomfort, respect it. It is the physical proof that your transformation is not just a mental exercise, it is a total, systemic, and permanent biological reality. As you anchor yourself in this new state, look at these aches as the growing pains of a sovereign being. You are currently in the final stages of the transition, where the internal friction is highest because the new structure is nearly complete. Every ache you feel is a sign that a specific outdated circuit is finally going dark, replaced by the luminous, symmetrical geometry of your new identity. How does it change your experience of physical pain to know that it is not a sign of your body failing, but a sign of your internal caterpillar archives finally being deleted? In the architecture of your transition, the crimson threads in watermarked image 1206-7269-46943 are not mere aesthetic elements, they are the visual data of systemic resistance. These threads represent the high-density entropic pathways of your old biology, the neural loops, emotional dependencies, and reactive habits that have been the foundation of your survival for years. As you attempt to force the new coherent frequency, the golden geometry, through the coherence processor, these crimson threads flare into high-tension states because they are literally being forced to rewire. What you are seeing is the thermal exhaust of your body struggling to let go of the past. The friction is most visible where the crimson threads collide with the gears. This is the point of conversion. It is here that the energy of your old self, the anger, the urgency, the fear, and the reactive hunger is being mechanically stripped away and filtered. This process is physically uncomfortable because these threads are not just data, they are the literal architecture of your nervous system. Every crimson thread that is being processed represents a piece of your caterpillar identity being decommissioned. The aches, the sudden spikes in blood pressure, and the feelings of constriction in your chest are the physical sensations of these threads being pulled, snapped, and realigned to match the frequency of the quantum soul. You are witnessing the literal physics of untouchability in its most primal, raw form. To be untouched is not to be removed from the environment. It is to have successfully replaced all your entropic, crimson connections with the coherent, golden geometry of your new self. As long as these threads exist in your field, you remain tethered to the marketplace of chaos. They are the hooks that the environment uses to drag you back into reaction. When you feel that surge of frustration or the urge to fight a situation, visualize those crimson threads flaring up within your nervous system. Observe them as disconnected, obsolete cables. Do not try to soothe them. Allow the gears of your new architecture to grind them down until they lose their charge. This is the hardest phase of the metamorphosis. You are no longer fully the caterpillar, but you are not yet fully the butterfly. You are a hybrid structure, held together by the thin, vibrating membrane of your integrity field. The crimson threads are fighting to maintain their structure, and they will use every ounce of your biological resources to stay alive. They will create moments of systemic panic to trick you into re-engaging with the old frequency. You must recognize these moments for what they are, the last gasps of an obsolete system. As you conclude this segment, understand that the presence of these crimson threads is proof of progress, not failure. They would not be glowing with such intensity if they were not being actively dismantled. You are not fighting your body, you are liberating it. You are stripping away the wires of a prison house architecture to build the throne of a sovereign soul. How does the imagery of the crimson threads being decommissioned change your relationship to the physical stress you feel in your daily life?
The final necessity of the anchoring process is somatic grounding. You have built the geometry, and you are recalibrating the nervous system, but your integrity field cannot function in a vacuum. It requires a physical anchor to the present moment to prevent the system from drifting into the turbulence of the marketplace. When your nervous system is saturated with data and your crimson threads are fraying, you need to provide your body with a grounding signal that is louder and more undeniable than the entropic noise of the environment. These exercises are the physical spikes that hold your new coherent geometry in place until it becomes your permanent state of existence. Earthing, the grounding current. When you feel the raw and exposed sensation, you are experiencing an excess of ungrounded electrical potential in your nervous system. By physically connecting your skin to the earth, walking barefoot on grass, soil, or sand, you allow for the discharge of this excess static. This is not mystical, it is physical. The earth acts as a massive electron donor, neutralizing the inflammatory heat of the crimson threads. Doing this for even 10 minutes a day forces your nervous system to exit the high-frequency state of emergency processing and return to the low-frequency, stable baseline of the planet itself. Cold water exposure, the vagal reset. Cold water is the fastest way to hard reset the vagus nerve. When you splash ice-cold water on your face or take a cold shower, you trigger the mammalian dive reflex. This force closes the reactive loops of the caterpillar self and compels the vagus nerve to initiate an immediate state of physiological calm. This is your emergency brake for moments of intense sensory overload. It doesn't just calm you, it physically dictates to your nervous system that the environment has shifted to a state of stillness, effectively shunting the chaotic data flow of the marketplace. Box breathing, the structural anchor. To anchor your internal geometry, you need to rhythmically balance your autonomic nervous system. Box breathing, inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding for 4, is a direct mechanism for achieving this balance. The hold phases are critical. They force your system to pause in the void between states. By consciously regulating your breath, you are creating a rhythmic, predictable pulse that your nervous system can follow. You are building a tempo of coherence that the crimson threads of your past simply cannot match. These exercises are the maintenance manual for your new architecture. They are not optional. They are the essential protocols for living as a sovereign entity in a chaotic world. You are currently in the final stages of binding your new high-frequency identity to the physical form.
Every time you ground yourself, you are driving another stake into the foundation of your new reality, making it that much harder for the turbulence of the marketplace to ever displace you again. As you prepare to test this stability in the next episode, realize that you are moving past the theory of being untouchable and into the practice of it. Your body is now a well-tempered instrument, your field is an active shield, and your nervous system is finally learning the language of your soul. You are ready to interact with the volatility of the world without being moved by it. The cliffhanger remains. What will the world do when it realizes it can no longer get a reaction out of you?
The physical integration of your quantum soul architecture is not just a nervous system event, it is a metabolic furnace. As you move through the anchoring phase, your body is operating at a significantly higher vibrational density, which translates into a massive increase in the turnover of micronutrients. This is why standard dietary habits often fail during this transformation. They are calibrated for a caterpillar system that relies on slow-burning, high-volume inputs. Your new sovereign body requires high-precision, mineral-dense fuel to support the ongoing recalibration of your neural circuits and the solidification of your integrity field. You are essentially building a new high-performance engine, and you cannot expect it to run on the same fuel that sustained the old, inefficient model. The specific metabolic cost of your recalibration manifests as an accelerated depletion of electrolytes and essential minerals. Magnesium, potassium, and sodium are the primary conductors for the electrical signals moving through your nervous system, the very signals that power the coherence processor. When your system is under the stress of energetic integration, these minerals are rapidly consumed to maintain the electrical stability of your vagus nerve and the integrity of your synaptic pathways. If you do not proactively replenish these, you will experience the system lag characterized by muscle twitching, brain fog, and a persistent inability to hold your sovereign center in high-entropy environments. You are not just hungry for calories, you are hungry for conductivity. To support this integration, treat your nutritional intake as a system loading protocol. Prioritize mineral-rich, bioavailable foods that offer deep support to the adrenal glands, which are currently working overtime to stabilize your cortisol response to the new frequency. Incorporate high-quality sea salts, trace mineral complexes, and magnesium-rich inputs to ensure your nervous system has the raw materials needed for consistent signal transmission. Avoid the marketplace food, highly processed, inflammatory inputs because they act as electrical noise that destabilizes your internal geometry. Every meal is an opportunity to reinforce the foundation upon which your quantum soul rests. Choosing inputs that ground your biology is an act of sovereign maintenance. This nutritional awareness is part of the physics of untouchability. When your body is perfectly fueled and your mineral levels are optimized, your nervous system is inherently more resilient. It becomes much harder for the chaotic oscillations of the environment to short-circuit your field because your physical hardware is running at peak efficiency. You are no longer just a passive participant in your biological health. You are the manager of a high-frequency system that demands specific, high-quality conditions to sustain its output. As you look at the final stages of your Season 1 journey, understand that this care for your physical vessel is the ultimate act of self-respect. You are proving to your nervous system that you are committed to the long-term survival and prosperity of the new self you are birthing. You have moved from the chaos of dissolution to the stillness of the observer, and now you are anchoring that stillness into the bedrock of your physical biology. Does recognizing your nutritional needs as a system loading protocol help you see the daily act of eating as a key component of your sovereign architecture?
The geometry is holding. The internal architecture you have spent these episodes constructing is finally beginning to solidify, and your integrity field is providing a buffer against the noise of the marketplace. Yet, in this moment of structural consolidation, you have reached a dangerous plateau.
The very act of anchoring, of forcing this high-frequency order into the low-frequency vessel of your biology has generated a new, localized tension. You have successfully created a pressurized system. You are now a vessel of immense contained potential, and the world is already sensing that something has changed within you. The cliffhanger is this: you have built the temple, but you are still inside it, and the walls are beginning to vibrate. You are now in the trap of reaction. Because your nervous system is currently in a state of high alert recalibration, the ego is waiting for the slightest opportunity to trigger a release of that pressure. If you are forced to act from this state, if an external trigger demands an immediate response before your new pathways are fully cured and stabilized, you risk a catastrophic breach of your own integrity. You are at the highest risk of reverting, not because you are weak, but because you are currently under the highest load. We have spent this season preparing you for this exact intersection. You have the geometry, you have the grounding, and you have the observer. But the trap lies in the belief that action must always be a response to the external. The marketplace expects you to react. It is designed to harvest your response as fuel for its own entropic cycles. In the opening of Season 2, we will dismantle the illusion that doing is a prerequisite to being. We will explore the physics of non-action, the mastery of holding your frequency perfectly still while the environment frantically attempts to solicit a signature from you. The cliffhanger is the silence that follows the tension. You are standing in the center of your own coherent field, and the pressure is mounting. You can feel the eyes of the system watching, waiting for you to twitch, to speak, to defend, to justify. They want the old you. They want the reaction. They are counting on the fact that under enough pressure, even a sovereign architect will eventually break. Do you have the capacity to remain completely still when the world is screaming for you to move? The foundation is set. The internal architecture is complete. Now you must face the final test of the quantum soul. Can you exist in a state of absolute, unbreakable neutrality while the world attempts to tear your new skin off? The stillness is your greatest weapon, but it is also the most difficult state to maintain in the face of conflict. The trap is set, the tension is peaking, and the transition is ready to be tested in the fire of the final episode. Are you prepared to prove that your coherence is stronger than the gravity of the marketplace?
Remember, your body is not failing, it is recalibrating. The friction you feel is the ideal meeting the real. Be patient with this integration, for you are upgrading the very biology of your consciousness. If you are ready to anchor your somatic integration, type "grounding my frequency" in the comments below. Today, we understood the physical cost of this transformation. In our next episode, The Point of Choice, we will explore the precise moment your upgraded yet stressed nervous system faces a trigger and must finally choose between ancient reaction and conscious creation.